Leonard Williams is officially heading to the Pacific Northwest as a member of the Seahawks in the midst of a playoff race. What is Williams bringing to the table for the Seahawks? We're going to be finding out from an insider perspective from Patricia Traina of Locked On Giants here on a bonus episode of Locked On Seahawks.
You are Locked On Seahawks, your daily Seattle Seahawks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, 12. This is Corbin Smith, host of the Locked On Seahawks podcast, your daily Seahawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. A special thanks to each and every one of the 12s out there. Thank you for making Locked On Seahawks your first listen 5 days a week. It's bonus episode action time. The Seahawks making a blockbuster deal to acquire Leonard Williams from the Giants yesterday. We're going to be learning about the newest Seahawk from an insider who knows him quite well, Patricia Traina, beat writer for the Giants, lead host of the Locked On Giants podcast. This bonus episode is brought your way by FanDuel. Get ready for Week 9 in the NFL with incredible offers from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads such as the Seahawks versus the Ravens this upcoming weekend, player props such as Devin Witherspoon's increasing Rookie of the Year odds, over-unders, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and enjoy NFL season with an offer you won't want to miss. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Glad to have Patricia Traina of Locked On Giants joining me today to have a further breakdown on yesterday's blockbuster deal, the Seahawks acquiring Leonard Williams in exchange for a 2024 second-round pick and a future fifth-round pick, a deal that caught some people off guard. Patricia, I can say from my perspective that I thought the salary cap hit was the one thing that was going to hold this back from happening, but this is a player that Rob Rang and I have been throwing around the last couple of weeks that might be a player the Seahawks try to acquire, and sure enough, they make it happen. But first, I want to ask you your thoughts on the structure of this trade, because this kind of was a baseball-style trade. It had Moneyball written all over it. The Giants basically just paid a little over $9 million to buy a second-round pick from the Seahawks, who now only have to pay $647,000 on a prorated vet minimum for the rest of the season. It's a really interesting structure for a trade deadline deal.
Well, not if you're the Giants. I think I know what they might be looking to do here. And, apologies to your listeners, because I know they came here to find out about Seahawks stuff. But for the Giants' perspective, they're going to be at a crossroad, I think, with Daniel Jones next year. I know they just paid him the 4 years, $160 million, but, he had another neck injury. They cannot go forward with the quarterback situation that they currently have, which is Daniel Jones. Tyrod Taylor's going to be an unrestricted free agent after this year. Tommy DeVito is unproven. I would not be surprised if the Giants, in landing that second-round pick from the Seahawks, that gives them 2 second-round picks, maybe they use one of those to package and move up to get a quarterback, because I'm starting to wonder, Daniel Jones looks like he's regressed. I know he's, the offensive line's been banged up and hasn't played well. He was without Saquon Barkley for a good chunk of the season. But, they're getting to a crossroads point here where if they want to move forward, they might need to shake things up. And I'll even go so far as to say, I would not be surprised if the Giants move on from offensive coordinator Mike Kafka. And I could see a scenario, quite honestly, where maybe Brian Dable, the head coach, takes over the play calling next year, and just, with a new quarterback, getting a new quarterback in place, and, some additional pieces, maybe they just shake things up a little bit.
Yeah, you're talking about a typical trade in the sense that it's two teams that are in totally opposite directions. Now, both these teams were playoff teams a year ago and surprised everybody. This year, the Seahawks have built off of that. The Giants, unfortunately, have not been able to do that with this rough start, which helped facilitate this trade, starting to move guys out of New York. And with that being said, You mentioned on social media, I saw this post that this is something you were expecting to happen in regard to trading Leonard Williams, the
Mhm.
Seahawks bringing him in. What are your thoughts on him joining the Seahawks? What is he going to bring to the mix for this team now in his 9th NFL season?
Yeah, Leonard is a good guy. I think Seahawk fans are going to like him. He's a leader. He's not somebody who's going to embarrass the organization. He's somebody who is going to, give you 100% effort. He takes great pride in his game. He's a great presence in the locker room. I think the media is going to love him. Even though he might not necessarily love the media. At least he didn't. That was the impression I got with the New York media, but the Seattle media might be a little different, obviously. So yeah, Leonard will give you everything he's got. The concern I would have with Leonard at this point is he's played a lot of snaps over his career. The Giants, ever since acquiring him, they've been leaning heavily on him, where he's been taking anywhere from 70% upwards of the snaps. He should probably be playing somewhere around 60 to 65. But, because the Giants have had depth issues on their defensive line in the past, they've really had to lean on him. And they were doing the same thing again, this year. So last year, Leonard Williams was injured. He missed his first games ever as a pro, which I know absolutely tore him up. But he's got a lot of tread on his tires. And he's, if you're expecting the guy that had double-digit sacks, I think it was in 2020, probably not getting that guy. That being said, you're going to get a guy with a good motor. You're going to get a guy who can hold his own against the run, who can, push the pocket, rush the passer. He could do all the things you need a defensive lineman to do. And I'm kind of curious to see how the Seahawks use him in that defense.
It's interesting that you mentioned the snap counts because I think that that's kind of a dynamic here that the Seahawks are really excited about because they're not going to have to play him 70, 75% of the snaps because Jaron Reed is having a rejuvenation year. Draymond Jones, they invested a lot of money in. He's quietly been turning things around the last 3 or 4 games. He had 3 quarterback hits on Sunday against the Browns. Mario Edwards has had a great season as a late free agent pickup, but they didn't have much depth. Now you bring Leonard Williams in, they're not going to have to rely on him to play that amount of snaps, which means he's going to be fresh. He's going to be able to not get overworked. And I think that the Seahawks are looking at it from this perspective that hey, this is going to make everybody on our defensive line better, not just our whole defense, but it's going to make our entire defensive line better because all these guys are going to be rotating in. We're going to be able to keep everybody fresh and fresh pass rushers. That means more issues for opposing quarterbacks. So I think they're hoping those sack numbers, the quarterback hit numbers, maybe can tick up a little bit just because Leonard Williams isn't being asked to play so much and such a large percentage of that workload. You've had a chance to cover him for the last several seasons. So you've seen where he's lined up along the line. And this is something Pete Carroll talked about with us yesterday when the trade went down and we had a chance to speak with him for his Monday press conference, that one of the first things that jumps out to him is that versatility that he has played the 3-tech position. He's played off edge. He's played nose tackle. From the versatility perspective, what do you see him bringing the Seahawks defense?
Yeah, I mean, he, like you said, he could play anywhere. I think his best position, though, would be like a 3-tech or off edge. I don't think he's really a nose tackle. Matter of fact, the Giants, last year they flipped it around and made Dexter Lawrence primarily their nose guard, and they moved Leonard outside, giving him more opportunities against guards and tackles as opposed to lining him up over the center. So Leonard can do a bunch of things. He's got, like I said, he's got a great motor. He's very competitive. He's not going to, get bullied. He's going to impose his will on the opposing offensive lineman. So, Leonard's still a very good player, despite the fact that he has all that tread on his tires. I don't know, how much more he's got to give. I would say maybe another year or two. And of course, he's in the final year of his contract. So the Seahawks really no risk here. They're getting a guy, on a rental, if you will, for under $1 million. I mean, you can't beat that with a stick, as they say. And it's kind of reminiscent about what the Giants were able to do when they acquired him from the Jets. So, hopefully Leonard has a has a strong showing for Seattle. I know he's going to be looking to get paid after the season. I don't know if he's going to get the payday that he's looking for, but with a strong showing in that defense with Pete Carroll, why not?
And this is not meant to take a shot at the Giants, but the fact is that last year was the first time in a long time they had been to the playoffs, and it was the first time in Leonard Williams' career that he had gotten to play in the playoffs. So I want to close off with this question. With you having a working relationship with Leonard Williams, knowing the man outside the lines, and knowing how competitive he is in general, how juiced do you think he's going to be now to go from being in a 2-6 situation to now being thrust into a battle for an NFC West championship? Also, with him being a West Coast raised kid as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think he's going to be super juiced. Look, he always said, "I love the Giants. I love it here." He loved playing with Dexter Lawrence next to him, but times change. Nothing, unfortunately, very few things stay the same. And guys come and they go, and it was time for Leonard to go. I mean, everybody kind of saw this coming because of the salary cap situation the Giants are in, and they did clear space as a result of the trade. But yeah, I think the idea of playing for the division title would appeal to anybody really. Having an opportunity to go deep in the playoffs would certainly appeal to Leonard, because, like I said, he loves the game. He's very proud in the work he does. You won't get a half-baked effort from Leonard Williams. You will get a full effort from him, and you'll get a guy who will come in, who will, once he feels out the locker room, he'll be a leader. He'll be a good influence on some of the younger guys in the locker room like he was here. I mean, just a really good situation for Leo. I'm going to miss him. He's a very interesting dude. Does a lot of things, off the field, with adventures, I call them, scuba diving, shark hunting, all kinds of stuff. So there'll be no shortage of topics you can talk to him about. But yeah, you guys are getting a really good player, and I'm sorry to see him go, but like I said, time marches on.
Well, I don't know if he's going to be doing much shark hunting in the waters off of the Pacific Northwest in Washington, but maybe there's going to be some approaching there. Who knows? But this does feel like a trade. Obviously, we're not going to know how things pan out until end of the season and what the Giants do with that second round pick. But this does feel like a trade that, at least initially, that you truly can say both teams look like they might come out with a win here. The Giants get that second round pick. The Seahawks, who are right in the thick of things in the NFC, right behind the Eagles and the Lions currently, they have the NFC West lead. They're in a great position now, bringing in a talented veteran that is going to be joining a team in the midst of an NFC West division title race. Thank you, as always, Patricia. Greatly appreciate it. For all of our listeners, make sure to check out Locked On Giants as well as Locked On Seahawks. You can find us on YouTube and all other platforms where you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening in.